I think I have an idea about how we can prevent police shooting black males in America. I'm going to get back to that though. Before that, I want to ask you all a question. Are the protests, the cries for dead cops, and less policing in the streets helping? Or is there an uptick in violent crime and homicides of young black males in cities just like Baltimore? One year after the death of Freddie Gray, the city of Baltimore has seen its highest rates of bloodshed and homicide since the city's been keeping track in 1972.
They feel like they have the right to, commit crimes now. So I guess that's why you might see a little extra surge in, crimes and violence in regards to shootings and homicides.
Politicians and community members pushed hard for legislation changes that actually came into place a year following his death. Also following Gray's death, there were politicians and community leaders who pushed for legislation changes, which occurred that following year. The police commissioner was fired, and after being highly scrutinized, Mayor Rawlings Blake decided not to run for re-election. New candidates up for election, however, used Freddie Gray's name in order to drum up votes. And now, after all of that, you have the community calling for more police to help solve the problems within the neighborhood.
Our people are shut in because they cannot get out because they're scared to walk the streets. It's a sad situation.
Something's got to give. We pay taxes, we pay good taxes.
Now, last night I was watching Netflix, looking for something to watch, and I came across a documentary series called Dope. In the documentary series, there was a gentleman who was labeled simply as a boss drug dealer. Now, this guy, he was wearing a mask, and he talked about how the changes impacted his drug sales.
It seemed like since the Freddie Gray rise, that was like one of the best things that could have ever happened for the dope game. They making laws every day that's in our favor, man. There's no more plainclothes police officers in the state of Maryland anymore. I love that law.
Other changes have included community engagement training, full-time foot patrol, and they also introduced a bill that puts an emphasis on hiring minorities from the community for new officer positions. However, it seems like the people who've been protesting aren't interested in having any police at all. Just recently, a Black Lives Matter member in Sacramento, California, decided that she wants to abolish police altogether in America. But perhaps she's onto something. Less police in the community would mean less interactions with young black males and less shootings. The problem with eliminating police is there's still a huge homicide problem in many cities in the U.S. And while people are always willing to point cameras and snitch on the police,
Man, I've been recording it.
they're not very forthcoming when it comes to snitching on community members.
The police were working a fresh shooting involving the murder of 7-year-old Amari Brown. Police said the bullet that killed him Saturday was probably meant for his father, Antonio Brown. Police say the boy's father is not cooperating with investigators.
And community members are the ones killing each other in the higher rates. And that brings me to my solution to all of this. My solution to blacks being shot down by a police officer is a simple one, and I don't know why no one has mentioned this before. Back in the day when blacks protested, we tried to hit corporations for money. For instance, the Montgomery bus boycotts. If you remember the Montgomery bus boycotts, Rosa Parks got on the bus. We all know the story. She wanted to sit in a certain seat, so she sat there. Whites got on the bus and demanded to sit there. She refused to get up. She got arrested, and this sparked a whole movement, a whole boycott of the bus system. Now, the thing of it is blacks were the main people riding that bus system. By boycotting the bus, they took a lot of money from that bus company. So the bus company was in a bind. They either had to bow to their demands or give up all that money. So for that reason, that boycott worked. This is how a successful boycott can work, right? So the question is, how does Black Lives Matter or anyone who wants to protest police killings hurt police? Well, the funny thing is, what we're doing is protesting. We're getting huge protests, which is actually bringing more police. They're getting overtime for covering these things, so they're getting more money. You know, during the Ferguson riots, the police paid $1.1 million in overtime. We don't want to give them more money, so I think a different way of protesting would be much more logical. So what does that mean? I mean, it seems like that strategy is not working. And then you're also tearing up your own communities and losing Starbucks and McDonald's and whatever companies are in their CVS that people need. So you're harming the community, and you're also giving the police more work. My solution is this: boycott violent crime. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, right? But if we boycott violent crime, the police will have no reason to be in the community, and they'd be getting paid less because they don't have a job to do. Take their money away, and we take the problem away at the same time. So this young lady from Sacramento, this Black Lives Matter activist, she wants less police. She wants to abolish the police. This is how you do it. We start talking about getting rid of violent crime. Violent crimes happen to be the main reason that police are in these communities. Yeah, there's the drugs, but with the drugs comes the violence, and that's what really brings people to call the police into these neighborhoods. There are people who are calling police into these neighborhoods, and that's what brings them there. Good people are scared. You know, you have kids sleeping in bathtubs, kids getting shot by stray bullets.
It's where 15-year-old Jeffrey Quick was killed on Tuesday, and it's also where Tareya Moore's 1-year-old daughter plays.
It gets me a little shaky because she could have been caught in a crossfire. Like, she could have been right here while they were shooting.
A shooting that left behind 23 bullet casings. Baltimore police are investigating the case, but in the meantime, they've upped patrols circling the block as part of their beat. Moore says it's not enough.
I feel like they should have been riding around. They should have been patrolling the streets because we have so many drug dealers out here that's causing the drama.
Mothers who are afraid to send their kids to school because their kids will have to go past areas where violence is likely to occur. So why not boycott the violence? Stand up to it. Say we're not going to take this anymore, or just have a movement. If you have a movement, the thing with the Montgomery bus boycotts is everybody was down with it. There were a lot of black taxi drivers who charged a lot less. They charged exactly the rate that the bus would to take people wherever they wanted to go because they were down with the movement. You had people who had cars would create carpools and drive people to work in carpools because they were down with the movement. White people even got involved. Whites that hired blacks would actually pick up their black employees from their homes and drive them to work. So everybody was in on the movement. Now, if everybody was in on a boycott of violent crime, now I know there's no store you go into and buy violent crime, but if we just push for it, you know, like the Bloods and the Crips pushed for a truce back in the day, and they actually pulled it off for a while. But if enough people are involved, if enough people keep talking it up, and enough people agree to stop the violence, then perhaps we'd have no need for the police to come in these communities at all. What do you all think? Leave your comments below. Do you think that a boycott of violent crime could work? Do you think that could get police out of the neighborhoods? Do you think that that would stop the clashes between police and young black males? Would it be worth it? I mean, we have just in Baltimore, I think it was Baltimore, I might be getting it mixed up with Chicago, but 600 deaths last year. It's just crazy. We've got to stop the violence. And you know, if we'd kill two birds with one stone if we did this. We'd eliminate the black on black homicides and killings, or at least get the violence down a bit, and we'd eliminate clashes with police. I think it's something that we want. I'm definitely pushing for less black males being killed by homicide or by the police. And I think this is the best way to do it. If we stop the violence towards one another, I think that you know, we can get rid of the police, just like this young lady said. And you know, I like the police. I think there's a need for them, but perhaps if we can just get their numbers down in our communities, we can do a little bit better. I don't want to make it seem like I'm anti-cop or anything, or that I think that the police are engaging in wrongful shootings. Sometimes I know people say violence is not the answer. Sometimes violence is the only answer. Anyway, that's my time. Again, let me know what you think in the comments. Should we try and get rid of the police in the communities? Is the abolishment of the police system really a good idea? Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you can get notifications when I make new videos. That's it.